CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
And with Vancouver Island finally basking in the summer heat at last, pet owners are reminded yet again, do not leave your pets in hot vehicles. It happened again. CTV News spotted a panting dog locked inside a truck in downtown Victoria today. The truck had been left parked in direct sunlight with the windows down just slightly. The dog had been in the vehicle for more than 10 minutes before the owner returned. The owner claimed the dog had water and was in the shade.
Your dog was clearly panting.
Yeah, my dog would be panting pretty much anywhere today. Don't you think that?
Well, especially in a hot truck.
With all the windows down so there's ventilation and water in the truck.
Well, you realize that the police could have come in and broken into your truck, right? Same with animal control.
An animal control officer arrived, tested the temperature inside a car parked in the sun that was right beside the spot where that truck was parked, and the thermometer hit 114 degrees. Too much heat can very quickly do permanent or lethal damage to your pet.
We take temperature readings of the exterior and sometimes the interior of the vehicle if we can manage it, and we're frequently seeing temperatures 115, 120 degrees in the inside of the vehicle. The potential situation is your animal can suffer irreversible brain damage. Your dog can die. You're just causing unnecessary distress to the animal.
Conservation officers say on hot days, leave your pets at home. If you leave an animal locked in your vehicle, police can break in and free your pet, and you can then face two different penalties: a $250 fine for leaving an animal in a parked vehicle without proper ventilation, or a $200 fine if that vehicle has not been parked in the shade. The wildfire risk is rising on Vancouver Island, and by the middle of this week, the Coastal Fire Centre says it's going to go even higher. This past weekend, it was relatively calm. Just 3 small forest fires reported on the island, but with the warmer weather come drier conditions. On Wednesday, wind speeds are expected to pick up, and that will increase the risk of larger fires.
Make sure your campfires are put out, make sure there's no sparks, because what can happen is if there's a small fire or if what we call a holdover, which is something that's smoldering in the surface layer, it can actually spark, it can spring up. So we're asking people to make sure your campfires are absolutely out, because with this wind event coming out, there is a higher risk of a wildfire.
Right now, there is no campfire ban in effect on Vancouver Island, but as summer progresses and the heat continues, the fire risk will go up, and a ban likely will at some point be brought in. The longtime chief of the Songhees First Nation has died. Robert Sam suffered a stroke yesterday and died at Victoria General Hospital, surrounded by his family this morning. Chief Sam was involved in band governance for most of his life. He became a councillor in the 1960s and had served as chief since 1996. Most recently, he received the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal. He was a driving force in the development of bylaws for the Songhees Nation and maintained close connections to his cultural heritage. A memorial service for Chief Robert Sam will be held July 15th at 9:30 a.m. at the Songhees First Nation Longhouse. Well, if your daily travels or even occasional trips take you over the Malahat, get ready for some possible delays and a safer drive. Crews have begun setting up for the installation of the concrete medians that will make the Deadly Highway just a little bit safer. Road crews were diverting traffic today, putting out the cones to make room for the construction just north of Finlayson Arm Road today. Crews will be removing the old painted lane lines and installing nearly 1.5 kilometers of concrete barriers that have been made in the Cowichan Valley. The province says these medians will reduce head-on crashes by 95%.
This is the first of a number of improvements. We are going to be installing approximately 1.4 kilometers worth of center median barrier. This will increase safety and reliability of this section of the corridor. Median barrier, once installed, has the ability to reduce crashes by up to 95%.
This is just phase 1 of the Malahat Improvement Project. The $8 million upgrade is expected to be completed by next spring. And City of Victoria crews were working today to change traffic patterns in Beacon Hill Park. They're trying to cut down on vehicles using it as a shortcut. Starting in August, crews will be putting out new signage and temporary bollards as part of a pilot project which will redirect park traffic. The city says it wants to convert some of the roads into multi-use trails so that the park is more pedestrian and cyclist friendly.
from right behind me here to Circle Drive will actually be converted completely to multi-use and no longer allow traffic flow. A few other changes include Circle Drive. We'll be converting it to a one-way eastbound from the petting farm through to Dallas Road, and then the other lane will be used for multi-use traffic. And this is significantly important for people with mobility issues. It'll allow them to move throughout the entire park in a wheelchair or mobility aid and not have to worry about being in the lanes of traffic.
The city wants to know what you think about all of this and says if there's enough community support for the changes, those bollards will be replaced eventually with proper curbing to make it permanent. Motorists will still be able to enter and exit Beacon Hill Park from Arbutus Way and at Circle Drive off Douglas Street. All of the parking lots in the park will stay open. Well, if you're looking to get a mortgage as of today, you are going to have to qualify under the new rules. One of the major changes now in effect is the elimination of 30-year mortgages in Canada. Only terms up to 25 years are now available. There are also new limits on how much you can borrow against the value of your home. The limit is 80% instead of 85%. Those changes were brought in by the federal government to try to keep Canadians from drowning in mortgage debt. Students at the University of Victoria are proving that it is easy being green. When it comes to going green, they're already leading the way. Engineering students are mapping out the road which will lead to the future of fuel-efficient vehicles. The group is planning to transform this Chevrolet Malibu into one of the lowest emission cars on the planet for the Eco Car 2 Plugging into the Future competition. The goal of the competition is to build a car that has less of an impact on the environment than any vehicle currently on the road.
The engine, the transmission, the current hybrid systems that are in the vehicle, we're ripping apart the whole rear suspension system to incorporate a new electric motor, high-power electric motor on the rear wheels. We're adding a large battery pack. So the whole process starts with basically looking at what's there, understanding how it works, cataloging how all the internal communications of the vehicle computers works, and then we go about systematically pulling it apart and putting it back together.
The UVIC team recently shared its design with judges in Los Angeles and received several awards. The students will now spend the next 2 years to rebuild and test and refine the Eco Car. UVIC is one of only 2 Canadian teams competing in the contest, which is running across North America. An expert in the use of force testified today at the Police Complaint Commission hearing that's investigating 2 Vic PD officers who broke up a drunken brawl outside a downtown Victoria nightclub. The incident happened 2 years ago, caught on video, and it prompted allegations that the 2 officers had abused their authority in the incident. The video was played at the hearing today, and the actions of the officers was analyzed by the use of force expert. He says the officers were outnumbered and they used their training to quickly get the situation under control. The expert says when people see police using force, it can often be mistaken for violence, and it is not necessarily the case. He says there's a lot to take into account, including who shot the video and the purpose behind the officers' actions.
When we see the police using force, it's to achieve a purpose. And once that purpose has been achieved, or the goal has been achieved, we like to see the police stop using force. So it's important when we see things on video that we understand that it's not necessarily shot from an officer's perspective or taking into account the things that they're experiencing in the moment. So we just need to look at video with an informed eye.
And tomorrow, one of the victims will testify at the hearing. 2 previous investigations have exonerated the officers in the case. An NANAIMO man was threatened at knife point over the weekend after catching a thief who was caught in the act of breaking into his vehicle. The man had parked in the Bastion Street Parkade when he was downtown on Saturday night. At about 1:30 Sunday morning, he came back to his vehicle with 2 friends. When they got there, they found a man inside rummaging through the items in the front seat. The vehicle owner struggled with the thief, tried to get him out, and then the man pulled a knife on him. The friends ran for help.
2 NANAIMO RCMP members were walking on Skinner Street. They were approached by 2 males in their mid-20s who stated that one of their friends had just had a knife pulled on him. They immediately broadcast a description of the suspect and went to the area.
RCMP arrested a man 1 level up in the parkade. He is a 43-year-old man police say is known to them. He will face charges in the incident. Oceanside RCMP are looking for your help tonight. They're trying to catch the man who robbed the Panago Pizza restaurant in the Oceanside area. Happened about 1:30 Sunday morning. A man walked into the Panago on the Island Highway in Parksville, pulled a knife, demanded money. He got some cash and took off on his bicycle. This is a picture of him from the surveillance camera. If you recognize the man, you are asked to contact Oceanside RCMP. An ultralight plane has crashed near Black Creek. It went down last night. Witnesses say they could hear it losing power just seconds before it crashed into a grove of trees. There was a 74-year-old pilot on board. He fell 30 meters to the ground below. He was airlifted to Victoria General Hospital, suffering life-threatening injuries. No update tonight on his condition. A woman driving on the old Island Highway this afternoon tried to do the right thing by pulling over to make way for an oncoming ambulance, but she ended up needing paramedics herself. The woman had pulled off the road, but pulled off just a bit too far, hitting a tree and rolling down an embankment, then hitting a second tree, landing in the front yard of a home. Crews had to use the jaws of life to get her out of the vehicle.
Boy, apparently the lady was heading south towards Courtenay and pulled over for an ambulance and hit a curb at the top of the hill, which pulled her to the right, and she came over, hit that tree behind us, and then rolled down the embankment. It's a write-off. Nobody else was hurt. It's unfortunate it happens.
The woman had been returning home after spending the weekend volunteering at Courtenay's Music Fest. She suffered a broken arm in the accident and other minor injuries.